answers.
Live from New York, the show that is still checking their phone 4 seconds before we're both supposed to go on air. It's First Things First. On today's show, the Cowboys, our favorites in Minnesota. Is Dallas getting too much respect? Meanwhile, the Bills on a 2-game losing streak. Should Josh Allen be more concerned than he actually is? And finally, it's Wednesday, which means it's the return of the best segment in all of sports television. Nick's Tears alongside Chris Broussard. I'm Kevin Wildes. Nick,
No, there's no surprises.
What?
Any surprise?
We know what the tears are.
Well, I mean, are you going to be
wonder who's
surprised
at
by
the
their
top.
everlasting accuracy?
I wonder
by
who's
the
at the
one
top.
ranking system in football America that never bought into the Bills, that consistently believed into the Chiefs? I don't know. Maybe it's time, America, to recognize everyone needs a committee. Without a committee, where would I be? I don't know.
So the Bills are second, third.
Long
That's
opening
a problem.
tease, I'll be honest with you. Let's start in Sacramento.
I thought we were starting with the tears.
Three big news items. Item number one, the Nets got squashed. Even though they held the Kings to, checking notes, 153 points on 60% shooting.
Wow.
Item number two,
The defense.
this morning, new report from Shams and Sam Amick from The Athletic saying the Nets are getting worried about Ben. Quote, the coaching staff and players have been concerned about his availability and level of play, with some questioning, his passion for the game. Who could have saw that coming? And then finally, item number three. This afternoon, Chris Haynes drops an article in which KD addresses his trade request, leadership, and legacy, with this being the sentence that jumped out at me, Nick. Rival executives are monitoring Durant's temperature in hopes of another trade request. So there we go.
Yeah.
It's a lot to unpack.
Sure is.
What do you make of this latest news dump out of Brooklyn?
Okay, so the interview with Haynes, credit to Haynes for getting it. And by the way, he mentioned in there, KD did this after the game.
Yes.
Credit to KD for actually, they clearly had it scheduled, and then they get beat by 30, and he still did it.
Yes,
but
that was nice.
just, I'm not going to say that's, if they scored 160 points, he would have called it.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, they held it at
153
153.
is okay.
So, three things jumped out at me. One is, and the most newsworthy thing is, we found out why Kevin Durant demanded the trade.
Yes.
I mean,
Was it because he only wanted to be there with a big three and Harden left? No, that wasn't it. Was it because he was sick of Kyrie Irving's nonsense? No, not it at all. Was it because he looked around the Eastern Conference and was like, man, Giannis is an unbeatable giant. We're not going to be able to do... No. It's because they weren't doing enough shell drills and closeouts in their non-existent practices. America, I'm not lying to you when I tell
you're
you.
right.
Talking about.
He said he wanted to leave because there were too many shoot-arounds, not enough practices, and that he wanted, quote, more shell drills and to work on closeouts.
So do you believe him? Do you not believe him?
I believe that if Kevin Durant wanted to work on more closeouts, that he should have said, guys, let's work on more closeouts, and they would have done it. Because last year, Harden wasn't there. There's no other superstars to placate. Right. Harden wasn't there. Kyrie wasn't there for most of the year. Right. Nash would do whatever KD wanted. And so that struck me as odd. Can I just go the other? So that was my first takeaway. My second takeaway is, and this is a tough one, bro, you believe in the Nets more than Kevin Durant does.
Well, the Nets have changed. Let's just keep it real. These are not the Nets I picked to win these.
There is this quote, which I don't know how it lands on everyone's doorstep, but the family of Royce O'Neal, of which Brew is a member, I imagine, is quite upset. Look at our starting lineup. Edmund Sumner, Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris Claxton, and me. It's not disrespect, but what are you expecting from that group? You expect us to win because I'm out there. So if you're watching from that lens, you're expecting us to play well because 7 is out there. Yes, just like people watch the Mavs and they're like, well, I don't love Dorian Finney-Smith, Dwight Powell, Spencer Dinwiddie, Reggie Bullock. They're fine. I don't love, but I expect them to win because is Lucas 77? Instead of 7, I'm bad with numbers. Yeah, we expect him to win because a superstar is out there. And then the last thing, he talked about his legacy and said what Brew has always said about his legacy, that he is the most malleable superstar ever. So those are my takeaways, Chris.
Wow. All right. You called me Chris, too.
Yeah.
You must be serious today. All right. Here's what I'm going to say. There were things I liked about it, things I didn't like. What I liked is that he seems to, and he emphasized this in the article, he's having fun.
Yes.
Like, he really seems to be having fun, and I'm genuinely happy for KD that he's having fun. He's the guy that's always talked more about, I just want to improve. Day by day, I want to get better.
About,
right?
He's learning more as in year 16.
Like, so he talks more about that than winning rings. Like, that's how I measure my game. Did I improve today? So I can see a guy like that genuinely liking, they're guarding me 5-on-1, as he said several times. I like that. They're boxing one in me. I mean, that's a little far, but liking that. So I'm glad he's happy. Strangely, you see it in his press conferences. He really seems happy. He seems happier now than when he was in Golden State winning rings. I mean, which is odd, but that's the case. Secondly, I liked what you said. Like, he talked about practice. Now, he said, go ask Nash. Like, I wanted to practice more. So maybe he told Nash, and Nash was just lazy, I don't know, but he didn't get enough practice. So he wanted more defensive focus.
Do you believe that's why he requested
I don't think that's the only reason, but I do think he did probably want more emphasis on defense. He was in Golden State. I think Scotty Brooks was a decent coach. He probably was coming from some pretty good coaching, obviously with Kerr, to this, where Nash obviously didn't emphasize defense. So those are things I like, right? What I didn't like, he talked about leadership. I'm not a leader? What's to say I'm not? Because I didn't tell Kyrie to get vaxxed? Well, no. But he's not a leader. I don't think he's a leader because you said it. If you really want to focus on defense, go to Steve Nash and say, look, we're not going anywhere if we don't start playing defense. Can we bring in a defensive coach or we got to work more on this? I think he's a leader by example. Because he's obviously has a great work ethic.
Don't you think he can call practice? Don't you think?
Well, yeah, if you're a leader.
That's what I'm saying.
And look, everybody's not a vocal leader. Yeah. Okay, Steph, I don't think is a vocal leader. Tim Duncan may not have been a vocal leader. But you need another guy there. Draymond is a vocal leader. But so I didn't like that. And I'll tell you what leadership isn't. It's not that quote you just had up there where you name the rest of the starting five and say, what am I supposed to do with this?
No disrespect.
And the reason I love what you said about Luka was because I wrote the same thing down. I wrote their starting five down, and it was like, sometimes it's JaVale McGee, sometimes it's Dwight. Like, Luka's not coming out saying, really? I'm supposed to win with this? The last thing I didn't like is this quote right here, and it talks about his legacy. My legacy is predicated on what Cam Thomas is learning from me and what he'll take away to help him by the time he's in his 10th year. That's my legacy. What I did with Andre Robertson, the confidence I helped him build when he was in the league, that's my legacy. He goes on. I actually like the second part, being able to play with Russ, Steph, Kyrie, still be me. That's my legacy. That's who I am. I can bring I can play with anybody anywhere. Yes, the way he plays, he can play with anybody. I don't like the first part, Wiles. You know why? Because I like to hear that from that's not the quote or the legacy from an all-time all-time Hall of Famer. That's Udonis Haslem. Yeah. Sam Mitchell, who I'm friends with, former coach. Whenever I see Sam, I think of what Kevin Garnett said about it. When I was a rookie right out of high school in Minnesota, Sam Mitchell took me under my wing and taught me the league. That's Sam's legacy. Because I don't remember anything Sam did as a player. That's his legacy. Kevin Durant, this is what you want. It's a cop-out.
But at least I think
it's a cop-out because it's like, maybe he feels that way, and maybe that's why. If he honestly feels that way, then it's why he hasn't led a team to a championship.
I think that's unfair. Because if you go back and look at what Michael Jordan says about Luke Longley and his development now.
Jordan, Bird, Magic, LeBron, Isaiah, they talk about rings. They talk about being the best player ever. That's what they talk about. They don't talk about, well, hey, I really helped out Judd Bushler. Remember, nobody thought he could play. I won him rings. No. So I think it's a cop-out because KD doesn't want to be measured by you didn't lead a team to a championship.
Also, I would say just very quickly, I think, because I said yesterday, I think KD holds Kobe, of all the players he's played against, in the highest regard. I don't think Kobe measured himself by what he did for Rick Fox.
Thank you.
No, I went the other way. I destroyed Smush Parker's career.
Right. But go ahead, Wild.
All right, so my take is this, just to put the legacy stuff aside. My take is that everything that's happening in Brooklyn is just straight up not normal. Just not normal stuff.
We've never seen this before.
It's bizarre. Right. So the big story out of Milwaukee this week, there was a big story. I don't know if everybody caught it. It was an article by UniWatch that says that the Bucks can't wear their cream-colored jerseys because when they try to put the digital ads on, the jerseys are too similar to the floor coloring, so they can't wear those jerseys. That is the big controversy and the big news story in Milwaukee. Meanwhile, in Brooklyn, a team that is supposed to be contending in the East, you've got Kyrie. I wouldn't even talk about Kyrie. We've got Kyrie missing 7 games, may or may not play in Memphis, and we're just basically in a dark zone of information. We don't know what's happening there. We've got this Ben quote that we haven't even touched on yet, that he might not basically like basketball. You've got all these KD quotes, and that the fact that other executives are like, maybe he wants to be traded. And as the little cherry on top, you got destroyed by the Sacramento Kings.
They're playing well. Mike Brown,
but 150 points is a lot.
And you got beat by double digits by a Lakers team that went into the game 2-10, and LeBron wasn't playing.
Right.
So it is to circle back to KD's happiness. Listen, I've been to every Nets home game this year, save one, and he does seem to be enjoying he loves playing ball.
Right.
And he talks in this article about, hey, this is a new challenge for me. And there is a part of me that respects that. Like, he looks at himself as a craftsman, and he's honing a new part of his craft. But he also is still considered, and should be, one other than Giannis, in the argument for the best player in the whole league. And all of us want from him to have a chance to display that in the finals again. And with the Nets, that doesn't exist. So I do think it is interesting that Haynes, at the very top of the article, you used to write near the lead, where you know people are going to see it, wrote what Wild said, that other executives are monitoring this situation. Because will Kevin Durant ask out again? Lever of this. The other lever is, will the Nets realize, even with KD, we are not even a playoff team, and therefore our best path forward is sooner than later trying to rebuild our team. And I think when they are right now in a position, Brew, where they have more losses than every team in the league except for Charlotte, Detroit, Orlando, Houston, and the Lakers, that is a problem. That is a real big problem.
I think you said what is kind of the common sentiment out there, at least among the media and stuff, and people that are pushing, hoping he'll get traded. We want to see Kevin Durant. We don't want to see him ending his career on a play-in team or whatever. Oh. Especially, it's one thing for LeBron, who's past his prime.
Correct.
But KD still in his prime, still got some great years left, maybe could win a championship. But that's KD. Like, if I'm the Nets, I'm sorry. And I'm not saying I would never trade him, but if I'm the Nets, I'm not thinking right now about trading Kevin Durant. He's